No good deed goes unpunished. My story from last night will reaffirm any doubts regarding the validity of this phrase. I arrived home from work early in preparation for the heavy winter storm that was forecasted to pummel northern Minnesota. The expectation was that the snow would accumulate at over 5 inches per hour. The wind would gust up to 30 miles per hour, and the temperature would plummet down to a frigid 15 below. I sealed up the windows and prepared some lumber in the garage in the case that the power went out and the heat was lost. I finished up as darkness fell on the desolate countryside I have called home for 20 years. Around 7, I can hear the wind starting to pick up and see the frost starting to form on the inside of the windows. But the house stayed warm and we were grateful for that. We finished eating dinner around 9 and had collected in the living room playing cards as a family when we heard a loud knocking on the door. I figured it would be nothing but the wind rearranging the neat assembly of rakes and shovels that I had temporarily stored on the front porch, but I decided to check just to be sure. I opened the door to reveal a dark figure towering in the doorway, leaving me wishing that I had replaced the porch light as my wife had been nagging me to do for the past 3 months. I invited him in to step into the entry out of the cold and wind, and he stepped forward across the threshold. The light inside the house revealed him to be an older man, around 60 with gray hair and black eyes accented by his bright red face, ravaged by the cold. He explained that his car had skid off the road and was stuck in the snow, and requested that he be allowed to lodge here until the weather improved. I agreed that this was the best solution, since he would not survive 10 minutes left at the mercy of the merciless elements that ruled the world outside. When he entered the room, I felt the temperature drop by 10 degrees, but assumed it was a result of the draft from the door having been opened. He took a seat on the old unoccupied armchair near the couch, which my family was seated on. He didn't really speak. He simply stared forward toward the unlit fireplace. Around 10, I decided that my children should go to bed, and I excused myself to tuck them in while my wife worked on the dishes remaining from dinner. When I returned, I was greeted by the horrific sight of my wife cutting the palm of her hand with a kitchen knife, slowly and purposefully. I looked at the old man on the couch, and he had transfixed his unblinking gaze on my wife, staring forward into the kitchen with his black, sunken eyes. I sprinted into the kitchen and pulled the knife from her hand, pushing her away from the sink which contained more weapons that she could use. She seemed to wake up in a startle and panicked upon seeing her hand running with blood. I assured her that it would be all right and wrapped her hand in a towel, making for a makeshift bandage. We wouldn't have survived the trip to the emergency room given the state of the weather. At around 11, the power flickered a few times and then went out completely. This was expected with the high winds and frigid weather. I assured my wife she would be okay and gathered some wood from the garage so that I could prepare a fire. Within no time, there was a blaze in the brick fireplace, and I gathered the children to the warmth of the dimly lit living room. After 20 minutes, the children were asleep on the couch, and the old man remained on the armchair staring contently into the fire. Around 2 in the morning, my 10-year-old son woke with a startle and charged straight towards me, punching me twice in the face before I could react. He then sprinted towards my wife, striking her twice. The old man was just staring at him without expression, no surprise at what was unfolding in the living room. I drew the attention of the old man, and my son stopped his attack and looked around, terrified at what had unfolded. The old man fixed his gaze on me as I spoke, and I started to think about the guns I keep in the safe in the master bedroom. I think about how easy it would be to end it all, since my family was falling apart anyways. I stopped talking to the man mid-sentence and walked towards the master bedroom, and stopped, wondering what was wrong with me. Why would I think these things? Returning to the living room, I asked the old man if he would be willing to stay in the basement for the night, and he agreed. He walked down the stairs and I directed him to the old spare bed that we had stored down there. I returned upstairs and locked the door to the stone windowless basement. I didn't know who this man was, but I knew he was causing whatever was happening. I stayed up for the remainder of the night watching the basement door, waiting for the man to emerge. The next morning, I checked the door and it was still locked. I had renewed confidence as the storm had passed and the daylight passed through the windows, providing illumination throughout the house. I walked down the stairs and checked the room the old man was staying in. It was vacant. My family and I searched the house top to bottom and could not find the old man. Did he find a hidden compartment under the house? Will he return? The walls are solid stone. Further, the police reported to me that there were no cars ditched in the vicinity of my house. Surely the old man couldn't have walked so far during a storm like last night. My family is recovering steadily. My wife has been treated by the hospital for a kitchen accident, and my son barely remembers what happened. I am worried about the old man returning inside my house, as I never saw him leave. The police searched the house and property and found only a few animals that had succumbed to the elements throughout the night in the backyard. I don't know who he was or what he was, but I was utterly terrified of him. I invited him into my home, and he almost tore my family apart.